The story begins when a mysterious spaceship suddenly tears through the sky and crashes onto Earth. As soon as its door opens, countless deadly aliens come out and immediately start destroying everything around them. These aliens are almost 3 meters tall. They can shoot sharp spikes from the tentacles on their backs. They are so fast that they can flip heavily armored military vehicles within seconds. They can move on the ground and also fly through the air. The armor on their backs is incredibly strong. Even rifle bullets cannot damage them. They have only one weak spot, which is their neck. But hitting that spot is almost impossible. They always attack in large groups. Wherever they go, they leave nothing but destruction behind. Because of their unbelievable strength, they wipe out almost 99% of humanity within just a few years. In the end, only about 500,000 people are left alive. They have only one final hope. Using their advanced technology, they build a time machine and decide to travel 30 years into the past to ask for help. Without wasting any time, they activate the machine and jump back in time. Meanwhile, the world they are about to enter is completely peaceful. People are sitting in a football stadium and enjoying a match. Suddenly, the sky turns dark. A strange time portal appears right in the middle of the stadium. A powerful energy spreads across the entire field. Seconds later, a team of heavily armed soldiers walks out of the portal. Everyone inside the stadium is left completely shocked. People watching the event on live television cannot believe what they are seeing. Then the commander of the unit steps out of the portal. She asks everyone to stay calm. She explains that she has come from 30 years in the future. She says that Earth has been attacked by a deadly alien species. Because of that invasion, humanity is now on the edge of extinction. She says they have returned to ask for help so the people of the present can fight beside them in the future war. She also gives a serious warning. If no one helps them, the human race will disappear from Earth within 1 year. As this news spreads, the whole world falls into panic. After a detailed investigation, every single thing the commander said is proven to be true. Governments around the world immediately begin recruiting soldiers for the future war. One of the people selected is Dan Forrester. As soon as he receives the recruitment message, he goes straight to the military screening center. After entering the facility, he is asked to remove his shirt. Then he places his arm inside a strange machine. The system starts scanning him. A few moments later, the screen shows that Dan will die exactly 7 years in the future. He is completely shocked by this result. He quickly asks how he is going to die. But the officers refuse to answer his question. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his arm. The machine secretly implants 3 special chips inside his body. When he pulls his arm out, he notices a strange device attached to his wrist. This device will allow him to stay connected with his team at all times. After leaving the center, Dan goes home to meet his wife Emmy one last time. The moment she sees the device on his wrist, she becomes terrified. She already knows that defeating these deadly aliens is almost impossible. She does not want Dan to leave her and their 6-year-old daughter alone, but Dan has no choice anymore. He promises that he will return safely and then heads to the military training camp. The atmosphere there is frightening. Most of the new soldiers are so scared that they can barely hold their rifles. Before their training is even completed, an emergency order suddenly arrives. Every soldier must be sent to the future immediately. The aliens have launched an attack on an important laboratory. The medicine stored inside that lab is the last hope for saving humanity. Because of this, all the newly recruited soldiers are sent on the mission without completing their training. The frightened soldiers gather in front of the time machine. As soon as the machine is activated, a glowing, colorful time portal opens in front of them. One by one, the soldiers are pulled into it while their screams echo through the air. A few moments later, Dan also begins to float upward. But suddenly, something goes wrong during the transport. Instead of opening near the ground, the portal opens thousands of feet above the Earth. In the next second, all the soldiers start falling from the sky without parachutes. Many of them die the moment they hit the ground. Dan is luckier than the others. He crashes into the swimming pool on top of a tall building. A few more soldiers fall into the same pool and land on top of him, but he survives with only minor injuries. As soon as he climbs out of the water, Dan quickly counts the survivors around him. There are fewer than 100 people left alive, even though thousands of soldiers were sent through the portal. It is hard to believe that such a small group is expected to fight those deadly aliens. Just then, a new order arrives through their communication devices. Headquarters tells them to reach the research laboratory immediately and recover the remaining medicine. At the same time, Dan is chosen as the leader of the mission. He is warned that there is almost no time left because the Air Force will bomb the entire city in just 10 minutes to destroy the aliens. Hearing this, Dan leads his team toward the laboratory without wasting a second. Along the way, they see nothing except the bodies of dead civilians covering the streets. To make sure no danger comes from behind, 2 soldiers stay back to keep watch. The rest of the team reaches the research building. Inside, they notice sharp alien spikes stuck deep into the walls. They also see dozens of dead bodies hanging from the ceiling. It becomes clear that the aliens are still somewhere nearby. Dan immediately starts searching for the medicine. Meanwhile, the Air Force is fully prepared to begin the bombing. Now Dan has less than 5 minutes left to complete the mission. Luckily, he finds the medicine in time. Headquarters quickly sends a rescue team to pick them up. But the moment they try to leave the building, they discover that the main entrance is already surrounded by aliens. Without stopping, Dan leads everyone toward the staircase instead. They finally find another way out, but they still move very carefully because they are trapped inside one of the most dangerous areas in the city. Suddenly, the soldier watching above notices something strange crawling across the ceiling. Dan shines his flashlight upward. Everyone freezes in shock. The deadly aliens are hiding right above their heads. Without wasting a second, the team opens fire. The constant gunfire only makes the aliens even more aggressive. They rush toward the soldiers at full speed. Dan keeps firing without stopping. Then one alien blocks every bullet with its powerful armor. It immediately charges at one of the soldiers. The impact is so strong that Dan is knocked to the ground. Before the alien can attack him, Dan grabs his rifle and fires a rapid burst of bullets. The heavy gunfire forces the first alien to back away, but only a second later, another alien jumps out of the darkness. The moment Charlie sees it, he completely loses his nerve. He starts firing wildly without even aiming. During the chaos, the old soldier quickly shuts a door to stop the alien, but the creature smashes through the door in only 2 seconds. Seeing this, everyone turns around and runs for their lives. The same alien keeps chasing them and lets out loud, terrifying screams. It almost sounds like it is calling the other aliens to stop the humans from escaping. In the next moment, more aliens begin coming from every direction and surround the team. At the same time, the fighter jets are now only 3 minutes away from reaching the city. Dan and his team must escape the bombing zone before it is too late. But the aliens continue closing in from behind, making their situation even more dangerous with every passing second. At that very moment, the rescue convoy finally arrives at the last possible second. Seeing them, the entire team is filled with hope, but their happiness lasts only for a few seconds. The aliens suddenly attack and wipe out the entire convoy almost instantly. Watching this, the team's last hope is shattered. Even then, Dan refuses to give up. He keeps firing his weapon while leading his team forward. Behind them, dozens of aliens continue chasing them with a well-planned attack. The fighter jets are still on their way, but every second now is critical for Dan. He keeps pushing his team ahead. On the other side, the white spikes prove they are extremely intelligent. As soon as their leader lets out a loud scream, groups of aliens begin surrounding the soldiers from both the left and the right. Their attacks are perfectly coordinated. One by one, Dan's teammates are killed. Soon, the entire team becomes trapped. If they cannot escape the city within the next minute, they will all die in the upcoming airstrike. Suddenly, one alien leaps straight toward them. Dan reacts without hesitation and opens fire. This time, his aim is perfect. The bullets hit the alien directly in the neck and he finally kills it. At that exact moment, the fighter jets arrive overhead and immediately begin dropping bombs across the city. Dan orders everyone to get out as fast as possible. The team breaks through the glass door of a nearby house and runs toward the edge of the danger zone. While escaping, the heavy soldier suddenly falls to the ground and badly breaks his leg. At the same time, the aliens continue getting closer. Dan refuses to leave his teammate behind. Even though saving him puts everyone's lives at risk, the team decides to stay together instead of abandoning him. But more and more aliens keep surrounding them. Realizing there is no other choice, one of the female soldiers makes a brave decision. She stays behind with the injured soldier and tells the rest of the team to keep running. Just as Dan and the others reach the edge of the blast zone, the fighter jets begin the bombing. A series of massive explosions shakes the entire area. Some time later, Dan slowly opens his eyes. He finds himself inside the medical camp at headquarters. To his surprise, Charlie has also survived the battle. The two of them slowly walk out of the tent. They soon realize that they have finally reached a safe zone. Outside, Dan sees the black soldier who survived the mission. He immediately asks where the rest of the team is. The soldier angrily tells him that everyone else is dead, and he blames Dan for their deaths. According to him, Dan should never have stopped to save the injured soldier. He believes Dan should have led the team out immediately. If he had done that, maybe the others would still be alive. Hearing those words, Dan falls completely silent because he has no answer. A few moments later, two soldiers arrive and tell Dan that the commander wants to see him. When Dan reaches headquarters, the commander thanks him for risking his life to complete the mission and for safely bringing back the medicine. During their conversation, another soldier calls the commander by the name Dan. The moment Dan hears the name, he is confused. The commander then tells him her full name. Dan is completely shocked when he realizes the truth. The little 5-year-old 14-year-old daughter he left behind in the past, has now grown up and become the commander of the American Army 30 years in the future. For Dan, this revelation is almost impossible to believe. The commander is also emotional because she is finally meeting her father again. A short time later, she explains that the alien Dan fought during the mission was actually a male white spike, but the creature now shown on the screen is far more dangerous. It is the female white spike. She has built a massive nest deep underground. The commander then reveals their next mission. They must capture the female white spike alive, because scientists believe that only her DNA can be used to create an antidote capable of killing the alien species. Without wasting any time, the commander boards a helicopter with her team and heads toward another dangerous mission. Soon, the helicopter reaches a deep valley where the female white spike is hiding below. For now, a few soldiers have managed to slow her down using tranquilizers, but they do not realize that this is actually part of her trap to lure more humans into the area. The moment the female white spike comes out of her nest, she brutally kills most of the soldiers within seconds. Panic spreads across the battlefield almost instantly. Seeing this, the commander grabs a rope and quickly climbs down into the nest. As soon as she reaches the bottom, she is shocked by what she sees. The female white spike is much larger and far more dangerous than the male aliens. The commander immediately orders the soldiers to tie down her tentacles. But before they can finish, the creature grabs one soldier and drags him toward another nest. The commander quickly orders the rest of the team to fire into that second nest. Flames spread through the entire area. The intense fire forces the female white spike to retreat back to her original nest. The moment she returns, she attacks the soldiers again. This time, her efforts fail because the commander has already weakened her with powerful tranquilizers. It looks like capturing her will now be easy, but the situation is far from over. Just as the commander is about to put her completely to sleep, the female white spike suddenly lets out a series of loud screams toward the sky. It seems like she is calling her young back to the nest. At the same time, a large flock of birds suddenly flies out of the forest, warning that something terrible is coming. Ignoring the warning, the commander quickly aims at one of the female white spike's tentacles and fires. The shot saves one soldier's life, but it also makes the creature even more furious. She immediately charges straight at the commander. Just before she can bite her, the soldiers pull her back and try to force her into a large metal cage. But she is so powerful that she easily resists all of them. Then a terrifying sound echoes through the forest. Right in front of Dan, thousands of white spikes suddenly rush out of the trees and attack the human soldiers. Without wasting a second, Dan grabs a machine gun, slides down on a rope, and opens fire. He keeps shooting non-stop, and his accurate aim kills one white spike on the spot. After that, he reaches the bottom of the nest. There he sees that his daughter is trapped in the female white spike's grip. The creature is only moments away from striking her with its deadly tentacles. Dan immediately grabs the tentacles and pulls them back with all his strength. This gives the commander the chance to break free from the alien's grip. Then all the soldiers work together and finally force the female white spike into a huge steel cage. As soon as they capture her, the team waiting above receives the signal. They immediately begin lifting the cage to safety. But the real danger is still not over. The moment their leader is captured, the remaining white spikes leap upward and launch another attack. Some of them jump straight toward the helicopter, but they are ripped apart after crashing into its spinning rotor blades. Then another terrifying roar echoes from deep inside the forest. Seconds later, thousands more white spikes rush out once again. Seeing the massive wave of aliens, the commander quickly tells Dan to run with her. But at the same time, the helicopter is attacked by the white spikes. Within seconds, it loses control, spins wildly through the air, and finally crashes with a massive explosion. As the danger continues to grow, Dan quickly helps the commander reach the convoy. The commander climbs onto the roof of a vehicle and keeps firing her machine gun at the attacking aliens. Little by little, the aliens begin falling behind. Seeing the chance, Dan drives the convoy straight toward the forest while the commander keeps shooting to slow the creatures down. After a long and dangerous escape, they finally make it back to the base with the captured female white spike. The moment they arrive at the laboratory, the commander immediately begins working on an antidote using the poisonous blood of the female white spike. This antidote is meant to kill the rest of the white spikes. If the experiment succeeds, humanity will finally have a weapon capable of stopping the invasion. It could also become their last chance to save the human race from extinction. Because of this, the commander carries out every step of the experiment with great care. While she is working, Dan learns that he will be sent back to his own timeline the next day. The commander explains the reason behind this decision. She wants Dan to take all of the research data back with him, so scientists in the past can create the antidote there. Even if the future base is destroyed, humanity will still have a chance to survive. With the research safely in the past, people will be prepared before the alien invasion begins, and they may be able to stop it in time. While Dan and the commander are talking, wonderful news finally arrives. The commander successfully creates the antidote, and the results are almost 100% effective. But no one notices that the female white spike inside the cage has been watching everything. The moment moment she realizes that humans have developed a weapon that can destroy her species, she begins screaming loudly. It sounds as if she is calling the other white spikes for help. Suddenly, the emergency alarm echoes throughout the entire base. Reports confirm that thousands of white spikes have started attacking the massive security wall. Seeing the situation getting out of control, every soldier grabs a weapon and rushes to the defensive line. They begin firing non-stop in an attempt to stop the invasion. It becomes clear that thousands of white spikes are trying to break into the base from every direction. In the middle of the battle, a message comes through the radio. Dan has only 10 minutes left before he must return to his own timeline. Hearing this, Dan and the commander quickly put on their safety gear. Before he leaves, the commander asks Dan to promise that he will do exactly what she says. Dan does not want to leave, but the commander insists that he must take the antidote back with him because it is now humanity's only remaining hope. At that very moment, a huge wave of white spikes smashes through the security system and reaches the base. The situation becomes worse within seconds. Fighter jets continue attacking from above, but the endless swarm of aliens refuses to stop. Everyone now has only one mission. They must protect the transfer tower long enough for Dan to return home with the antidote. During the battle, several white spikes break into the laboratory. They destroy the research equipment and free the female white spike from her cage. The moment she escapes, she immediately begins searching for Dan and the commander. She knows that if they are not stopped, her entire species will eventually be wiped out. Even so, time is running out. Only 6 minutes remain before Dan can return to his own timeline. If they can survive just a little longer, he will escape safely with the antidote. Now the commander carries the greatest responsibility because she is determined to send her father home alive. But suddenly they come face to face with the female white spike. Just before the creature notices them, Dan and the commander quickly hide out of sight. Unable to find them, the female white spike lets out a furious scream and orders the rest of the white spikes to search for them. Meanwhile, only 5 minutes remain on the countdown. The commander carefully looks outside to check the area, but in the very next moment, one of the aliens suddenly appears right in front of her. In fact, dozens of white spikes are searching for them from every direction. Looking around, it becomes clear that escaping is almost impossible because the aliens are everywhere. Dan and the commander quietly look at each other without saying a word. In the very next moment, they turn toward the doorway and open fire on the white spikes rushing toward them. Since the aliens have no room to dodge, several of them are killed on the spot. Using this chance, Dan and the commander quickly move through a path at the back of the building. But more white spikes continue closing in from every side. Even so, both of them keep aiming at the aliens' necks with perfect accuracy. Their attacks are so precise that the white spikes do not even get a chance to fight back. As soon as the path is clear, they rush toward the helicopter. Suddenly, one white spike attacks the commander and tears open her stomach. She falls to the ground in pain. Seeing this, Dan immediately turns toward the creature and fires a long burst of bullets. The clever alien quickly jumps back and escapes the attack. Even while suffering from the injury, the commander struggles to pull the sharp spike out of her body. At that same moment, the helicopter that came to rescue them is also attacked by the white spikes. Despite everything happening around them, Dan keeps carrying his daughter and runs toward the lower level of the base. Just then, a huge ship crashes directly into the base because of the alien attack. A massive explosion follows, and the entire base disappears under a cloud of smoke and fire. Seeing the destruction, Dan becomes completely silent. His daughter's condition continues getting worse, and it feels as if death is standing right beside her. Even in this condition, she tells her father that he must take the antidote back to the past no matter what happens, because it is the only thing that can save humanity. As she says this, tears begin running down her face. Watching his daughter suffer, Dan also cannot hold back his tears. He keeps begging her to come back with him, but fate has something else planned. Suddenly, the female white spike appears once again. Just as she is about to attack them, the bridge beneath them suddenly breaks apart. At that exact moment, the female white spike grabs the commander's leg, and both of them begin falling into the deep pit below. Dan quickly catches his daughter's hand and tries to pull her back. Now there are only 30 seconds left before the time portal opens. Below them, the female white spike keeps climbing upward and is determined to reach Dan before he escapes. But the commander already understands what is about to happen. To save her father, she slowly lets go of his hand and falls down with the alien. Dan cannot stop himself and jumps after her. At that exact moment, the time portal opens and Dan is transported back to his own timeline. This is where part 1 of the story comes to an end. In the next part, we will see how Dan tries to stop these deadly aliens before they ever get the chance to attack Earth. If you want to watch the next part of this movie, then write the next part in the comment, and if you liked this video, then be sure to like it and subscribe to our channel to watch such interesting movie recaps.